Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Community Empowerment Hour. And my name is Maury Mungeon, and I will be one of your hosts, along with Merlene Andre, who will be coming up a little bit later when we do our Q&A. But we're your hosts this evening, and we just want to welcome everyone here. We have an exciting program for you today, or another exciting program for you today. And those who have not been here, or this may be your first time here, we want to welcome you especially. And you'll hear this throughout the presentation. Just so that we can stay in contact with you guys, please put your name in the chat so that we can keep you abreast of everything that we have coming through for future presentations. We think, we just had so many wonderful presenters. And the thing is, what we're trying to do, Community Empowerment Hours, just God has given us and his people so much knowledge. And and we just want to empower you as well as the people around us with the information that God has given us all. And we've done, for those who, if this is your first time, we've done numerous presentations, not only on health, but on business, on cooking. And we're going to have another cooking demo coming up towards the Thanksgiving season. So you got to be here for that. We had programs on mental health, but we're just trying to be balanced on what we bring. But we noticed that most people are into the health aspect, natural remedies and so forth, like what we'll be talking about this evening. So I just wanted to share that with you, and please just remember to put your name and your email address in the chat so that we can stay in contact with you. Now, this evening, we have a wonderful guest with us, and her name is Rukia Charles from the Uchee Pines Lifestyle Center. And we will be bringing her up shortly. But before we do that, we always like to open up with a word of prayer. So I'm going to invite you to bow with me as we invite the presence of the Lord to be with us. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for just the opportunity to be able to do something like this, to be able to share with the community the wisdom that you've given so many people. And tonight you will be using Rukia. I pray that you would be with her in a presentation and be with those that have logged in and those that will be logging in, that you will give them information, empower them with all this knowledge that you've given us, that they may help themselves to live a better and more prosperous life. So we thank you for this chance, this opportunity. May your presence be felt as we dive into this program. So we thank you, Lord, for always being with us, always showing your love towards us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so without further ado, I know you didn't log on to listen to me. So without further ado, I welcome
All right, hello everyone, and welcome. I'm so happy to be with you today. I am coming to you all the way from Uchee Pines Institute, which is in Seal, Alabama. If you don't know what Uchee Pines is, or if you've never heard of us, we are a lifestyle center or a wellness center that focuses on treating disease naturally. So this presentation kind of goes right in line with that. So today we're going to be covering herbal remedies. How could you do some simple things at home, right, with the herbs that you find in your health food store? Maybe you even have some herbs in your backyard or something. How can we prepare these herbs to receive all the good medicinal properties for our body? So we're going to learn how to prepare them in several different ways today. So I don't know if I said already, but my name is Rukia, and I'm happy to be here with you. And we're going to go back and forth between our slides and, yes, the demo. So I want to begin with a Bible verse. Even before sin, in Genesis, we see Genesis 1. Okay, excellent. Perfect. In Genesis 1, 11 and 13, we see that God said, let the earth bring forth grass and the herb yielding seed, which, and the fruit of the tree yielding, let's say the herb yielding seed and the fruit of the tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the evening and morning was the first day. All right, then further down in that chapter, so Genesis 1:29, we see that God says, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed. And here's the important section, to you it shall be for meat. So we see here that God even gave us herbs as part of like the original plan for man. And that last sentence that says, for you it shall be for meat, that word meat means sustenance. Herbs were given to us to sustain our bodies. So this was even before sin. And of course, with the introduction of sin, or after sin, we know that disease followed, death, decay, destruction. And so the Lord in his mercy provided a remedy or a plan of redemption, not just to save our spiritual life, but also for our physical life. All right. So it says here, looking upon man, God saw his desperation, right? Or his desperate rebellion, and he devised a remedy. Further down in that passage, it says he planted for them the tree of life, the leaves of which are for the healing of the nation, right? And we find that verse in Revelation 22, verse 2. Okay, so can herbs be used as an antidote for disease? Yes, Inspired Counsel tells us the Lord has provided antidotes for disease in simple plants, and these can be used by faith with no denial of faith. For by using the blessing provided by the Lord for our benefit, we are cooperating with him. We can use water and sunshine and the herbs which he has caused to grow for the healing maladies brought about or brought on by indiscretion or accident. So here we're told we should use these herbs along with the sunshine, along with water, nutrition. And this is no denial of faith. Actually, we're cooperating with God to bring forth healing when we use these things. That second quotation there says, there are simple herbs and roots that every family may use for themselves and need not call a physician any sooner than they would call a lawyer. These can tide over even the most apparently serious maladies. All right, so some of these herbs have very powerful properties that can be used for even some of our bigger diseases. Now, today we're just dealing with more of your general conditions. Of course, something to boost the immune system. We'll deal with some herbs that help with pain and some sleep, some things like that. Here at our facility, we have, I believe, the course on herbology is 4 weeks long. So we're kind of trying to pack it into an hour for you. And it's still a lot of information, but hopefully you can get some of this later if you would like to go over it. All right. So what is an herb? Here we have a definition. The term herb is often applied more generally to any part of the plant: root, stem, bark, leaves, seeds, blossoms, etc., which has been used for such purposes as medical treatment, nutritional value, food seasoning, or coloring or dyeing, and other substances. So pretty much an herb is using any part of the plant, right? From the roots, the stem, the leaves, the blossom, even sometimes the fruit, right? So that's what an herb is. And here we have just some nice pictures of the different parts of the plant prepared in different ways. So you have the flower, the blossom. You may make that blossom into a powder, right? So, right, just showing you different ways that herbs can be bought or prepared. Here's a short list of the properties and the actions of these herbs. And I mean, the properties just go on and on and on, right? This is, again, just a very, very short list. So what are some guidelines? Do we need to be mindful of anything when we're using herbs? Yes. Well, using an herb for a specific medical problem shouldn't really take the place of professional medical advice. Okay, so this presentation is for general knowledge, and you do need to work along with your healthcare provider when substituting an herb, maybe for a medicine or introducing a new herb into your treatment plan. Okay. Also, here are some things to be aware of. I want to be aware of the actions and the properties of every single herb. All right. So do your research. Find a book. I have lots of references at the end of this presentation. Online, you can find some great things as well. Look at Uchee Pine's website to find some information, right? So be aware of the properties and actions of the herb. You want to know what's the correct administration and dosage, right? Can I use too much of this herb? Is too little, right? Is this herb, do I receive the benefits from this herb when I use it internally? What about externally? So administration and dosage. And then, of course, you always want to be aware of any possible side effects or adverse effects. That's a lot of times we don't have a lot of side effects for herbs, but you do want to be aware of certain things, maybe an allergy, or if you're taking another drug, is there a particular interaction that you need to be careful of? Pregnancy, there's some herbs that we want to stay away from, and then small children as well. Okay, so I think the synopsis of this is pray, of course, but also do some research so that you know exactly what you want to get from each of these herbs. All right, so we're going to talk about herbs in really about 4 different ways to prepare herbs. All right, number 1, we have what we call a decoction. Number 2, we have infusions. And then the last 2 you may be more familiar with. Number 3 is dried or powdered herbs, and that's the ones that you generally could go to your health food store and buy, like the powdered, lots of different herbs, right? Golden seal, echinacea, things like that. You can just go down to your health food store and buy it. And then number 4, essential oils, all right? So herbs can be used in these 4 main ways. So starting at the beginning, number 1, what is a decoction? An easy way to remember it is let it boil. A decoction is a method of extracting or dissolving chemicals from the crushed plant material by boiling. All right. So decoctions can be used in making teas or tinctures, even some salves. All right. So generally, when you're making a decoction with an herb, you want it to boil. Okay. Number 2 is your infusions. This is where you just let the herb sit, right? Let it sit. An infusion, or the process of extracting the chemical compounds from the plant material in a solvent. So either water, oil, or alcohol, or by allowing the material to remain suspended in the solvent, okay, over a time, a process often called steeping. All right, infusions can be used to make tinctures, extracts, oil extracts, and liniments. So we'll show you a lot of words and a lot of definitions there, but we'll show you exactly what all of this means. All right, so let's begin with making tea. This is probably the most simple way, of course, besides just going to the store and buying the powdered herb and putting it in your mouth. But this is one of the most simplest and effective way of getting those great herbal properties right into your system. I mean, drinking a tea, generally you can receive that the benefits within 15 to 20, 30 minutes. So it's a great way to access some of those properties. Okay, so how do we make it? We have this little chart here that this is what we use at our facility here. It kind of tells you what part of the plant should be cooked for how long. Okay, so powder, let's say it's a teaspoon of the powdered herb to 1 cup of water, and it should just steep for 15 minutes. So what does steeping mean? We have it down at the bottom. You bring your water up to a boil, remove it from the heat, and then add your herb, cover, and let it sit, right? So that's just steeping. It's not actively boiling. Just like your good vegetables, that's good for you. If you overcook them, you won't receive the benefit, right? So it's the same concept for your herbs. You'd recognize that the more delicate parts of the plant, so like the leaves and the blossoms, which is down below, you just steep it, versus the harder parts of the plant, the harder herbs like the barks, the seed, the roots, you have to actually boil that quite a bit to get out some of those properties. So your barks, roots, and seeds, you're going to boil it for 10 minutes, then take it off the stove and let it steep for another 20 minutes. All right, so because it's such a long process, I have already began making my tea here for you, but I'll show you what it looks like. So today we're making a tea for sleeping. This is a really common one for, anyone, right? A lot of people do have problems sleeping. And of course, we want to figure out why. We want to treat the cause of disease. This is just going to help you in that process. But here's a great recipe of some great herbs that are pretty safe and can usually get you right to bed in no time. Okay, so we call it the Sweet Dreams tea, and we're using chamomile flowers, lavender, catnip, and valerian. All right, the instructions are right below. So we're gonna bring 3 cups of water to a boil. So we just added the valerian there. So it actually should be 4 cups, because if you remember in our slide before, let me put it back here. In our slide before, it told us that 1 teaspoon of herb should be equal to 1 cup, right? So 1 teaspoon of herb, 1 cup of water. So if you have 5 herbs and you use 5 teaspoons of each one, right? 1 of each one, you should have 5 cups of water. So we'll adjust this recipe a little bit here, which I already did in my pot. Bring your water up to a boil. Then, I see. Oh, okay. So all of these, we're gonna just ignore some of this, because the roots, it says echinacea root, ginger, and those are your roots. You're going to boil it for 10 minutes and then take it off the heat and steep. So this is a recipe for the immune tea. And so we're just going to put, instead of putting echinacea or ginger for boiling, we're going to use the valerian, right? Because the valerian is the only one in this recipe that has a root. So we boil the valerian for 10 minutes to get those properties out. Then we're going to let it steep for 5 minutes and add all the rest of the flowers and the leaves. So the chamomile, the lavender, and the catnip, and then let that steep for another 15 minutes. All right. Going right along with our, our chart from before. So of course, there's a little wiggle room here. You don't have to be exactly 15 minutes, 10 minutes, things like that. But generally, we want to stay within those times. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. I don't know if you could see here, Brother Andre. I'm not sure if here we go. All right. Okay, maybe I should move. Should I move towards it? Okay, right. So you can, let me see, it's a little hot here. Okay, so I already had my tea boiling, and I had it boiling for a couple minutes, right? And I added my valerian root, and here we have the valerian root. I added that to the water, and I let that boil for 10 minutes. Then I turned off the stove, which you could kind of see here. Well, the stove is off, and I added my Here we go, my catnip. Let's see if we can get that in focus. Okay, just press it, sit it down. Lovely. We have our catnip and then our lavender flowers and then also our chamomile flowers. Okay, so you recognize that I've avoided the powders in this mixture. Now, you can use powders. It's just a little bit doesn't taste as nice, right? And also when we start to make our tinctures and oils and so on, it's difficult to strain every little speck of, you know, that powder out of your mixture. So we try to stay with the whole herb, is what we call it, right? So that's why all of these are the actual leaves and barks and, you know, things like that. Okay, so there we have our mixture and it's been sitting for more than 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and strain it and you'll see what that looks like. I think I'm in a good spot. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and it actually smells really nice because of the lavender in here and the chamomile. Okay, and that's my herb that's left over there. If you're composting, you can compost that or put it in your garden or throw it away. All right, so this is your, oh, there you go. This is your nice bottle of sleepy time tea. Yeah. Okay, so general dosage is about 2 to 3 cups a day. Of course, if you're gonna drink this for sleep, you want to drink it maybe about an hour before going to bed. And I would try a smaller dosage. I would maybe try about a cup of it, because it will help to put you to sleep, but then you would have drunk so much that you would need to get up to go to the bathroom, right? So try about a cup of it right before going to bed. But let's say you were making it for something else. You were making it for pain, or you were making it for boosting the immune system, like the rest of this recipe is written for. You would drink about 2 to 3 cups of it every day. And then you have some other little guidelines up top. The tea will begin to lose its potency after about 3 days. It will still be good, but we keep it in the fridge. But after about 3 days, I mean, you really want this to be giving you, you want it to give you what you need, right? So it's an easy recipe. You can make it every couple days, and then try not to mix more than 4 or 5 herbs at one time. So our recipe here called for 4 herbs, and we were able to put that all together and make one tea. All right, so that's for your tea making. Hopefully that all made sense. And if you have any questions, we can answer them at the end. All right, so we're going to move on. That's how you make teas. Secondly, we're going to teach you how to make tinctures. So if you don't know what a tincture is a concentrated form of the tea. All right, so for some of our guests or for some of you out there, maybe drinking 4 cups of tea is difficult every day, or drinking that 2 to 3 cups. So we can make it into a very concentrated form so that it's easier to take. How do we do that? So a tincture or an extract is a herbal extract is a concentrated solution made by extracting or pulling the herb's chemical constituents out of the herb fiber with a solution of either alcohol and water or glycerin and water. A good liquid herbal extract should optimally preserve the aroma, taste, and biological activity of the herb from which it is made. All right, so a lot of the tinctures that you buy from your regular health food store will generally be made with vodka, so an alcohol. But here, you know, we're trying to get as natural as possible, and we want to stay away from anything that could potentially you know, interact or bring forth a disease. We want to make sure that we're putting the best things into the body. So we're going to be using glycerin, vegetable glycerin, to make our tinctures. And this is what we've used for all of our tinctures that that we use here. All right. So let's go ahead, and we have our recipe, and this is the immune booster tincture. So we call it the Feel Better tincture, and the herbs that we're using is elderberry, ginger, echinacea, golden seal, and then we have our vegetable glycerin. Okay, so these herbs here, I could have used them in our first slide for making a tea, right? But we just mixed it up. We're going to use this to make your tincture instead, right? But I could have used the herbs that I used for the sleepy time to make a tincture, right? Okay, so let's begin. You have a list there of the things you're going to need for your to make a tincture. You need a glass jar. Let me see here. You need, of course, your herbs. You need vegetable glycerin, and this is the one that we're using here, the Now brand. Maybe I can bring it right here. Yeah. There you go. Right. You just have to go to your health food store and make sure that it's 100% vegetable glycerin, right? That's the best one, but this is the one that we use here. Okay. You also need boiling hot water, a crock pot, which hopefully, right, lots of people have in their homes, some kitchen towel, and a cheesecloth. Okay. And then it has here this dosage: 1 dropper full is equal to 1 cup of tea for this recipe. So that's actually pretty powerful, right? So 1 dropper full, let's come over here, 1 dropper full of this tincture, further down, yeah, is equal to 1 cup of tea. So if you remember, on our other slides, when we were suggesting how much cups of tea you should drink, it said 2 to 3 cups. So imagine having to drink 2 to 3 cups of this tea, this is about 3 cups, versus 3 dropperfuls of this, right? It kind of really shows you the potency of this tincture. All right. So how do we do this? First, we're going to fill our jar with half the amount of herb. And I think that this is such a great no-fail recipe. It's really simple to do. And you don't need all the little measurements of 4 cups and 2 spoons, right? Pretty much it's saying whatever jar you're using, half of it you're going to fill with herb. So if I was doing this much, if I wanted to make all of this in tincture, half of the amount of that jar I'm going to fill with herbs. So today we're going to do a smaller jar. I'm going to just put this here. We're going to do this small jar, and we're going to fill it with the herbs that we need, which is my ginger. Come across here a little bit. All right. And my echinacea, or this one is ginger, golden seal, elderberry, right? And a little bit of echinacea, all great things to boost that immune system. And I'm just going to put equal parts, as much as possible, to fill up to that half jar point. Okay. So I'm going to use all of my echinacea here because it's not very much. Echinacea. I'm in a good spot. Good spot. Okay. All right. Perfect. And then I'm going to put some elderberry in there. The elderberry really takes over the taste of this immune tincture, which is kind of good because it tastes, elderberry is sweet. All right, then my golden seal root. Okay. Smells a little bit different. Okay, and then my ginger. So I'm going to put a good bit of ginger in there and maybe a little bit more of the elderberry. Okay, let's see. Are we to half yet? That's about half right there. Okay, so number one, fill your jar with, fill the glass jar, must be glass, with half herb. Number two, pour hot water just enough to cover the herb. So here I have my kettle that has been going off, and I'm just gonna add hot water over this. So you're kind of activating the properties here, right? Just enough to cover the herb. Let me let that sit for a little bit. I don't know if you could see that, but just a little bit, okay? Then it says, fill the rest of the glass jar with your vegetable glycerin. Okay, so here I have my vegetable glycerin. I'm gonna finish out a bottle that we were using here earlier. And this vegetable glycerin is made from coconut oil and palm oil. And there's one more other vegetable oil in there, but okay. All right, fill the rest of your jar with vegetable oil, sorry, with your vegetable glycerin, and then place the lid on the jar and mix the herbs as best as you can. All right, so I'm just gonna make sure that we're closed. And I'm gonna get that herb mixed, right? That's kind of fun. Okay, then it says, place the jar into the crock pot on low or medium, filled with water and lined with a kitchen towel. We're gonna leave it in the crock pot for 3 days, shaking it gently once a day. All right, so here we have, you can get a crock pot from your thrift store, or, you know, it doesn't have to be your nice deluxe crock pot from in your kitchen. This is one that we've used for years and years, right? You can tell we're here. So I have my hot water, right? I would put it on low, medium. Of course, it just kind of depends on what type of crock pot you have. I'm going to put my kitchen towel right inside there so that the glass isn't going to break, right? And then I'm going to put my solution or my mixture right into the crock pot, right? Can we see it? Right in, okay? And I can even cover it up with the rest of this cloth if I wanted to, okay? Right in there. And we're going to let it sit. It doesn't, this one is nice that it actually closes, but it doesn't have to. If it was sticking out a little bit, like if I had a bigger jar and it was sticking out, that's fine, as long as the water comes right up to the top of the crock pot, okay? So we're gonna let it sit there for 3 days, and every day we're going to invert it and shake it to make sure that the herbs and the glycerin is really getting mixed together. And then we're gonna add as well, when you check it and mix it, we're gonna add hot water to the crock pot as needed, okay? On the 4th day, we're gonna, the mixture, on the 4th day, mixture, then strain, okay? Mix, it's supposed to be mixed. On the 4th day, mix the mixture, then strain with a cheesecloth, and you can store that in a dark bottle in the refrigerator up to 6 months, okay? So here we have an example of what that would look like in a nice dark bottle. Of course, you can, you know, put it in any type of bottle that you like, but dark is better, and you put it right into your refrigerator, okay? So we could pretend that that 3 days went by and you take out your solution, and by then it's nice and dark and rich, usually with the herb, and you strain. That's what I was mentioning earlier. You really want to, if you were using powdered herbs, you really want to get all of that grit out. You don't want any herb in your new solution. So you really need to strain it out really well. You can use, you know, a strainer, but the best thing to use is a cheesecloth. And that's why it's there on your list of things to use, right? So here's your cheesecloth, and you go ahead and just pour it right into your cheesecloth, the herb or whatever it is, and squeeze, 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 squeeze into your new bottle, right? I don't have one to show you because we're now making one, right? But you understand the concept. Go ahead and strain. The most important thing is to get you don't want to leave any leaves, flowers, powder, anything in the new solution that you'll be using for the next 6 months. Okay, so that is your tincture. Now, if you didn't have a crock pot for whatever reason, or you didn't want to do this method, this is actually the fast method. You can do it for a longer period. So if down below it says here, you can let it sit. So make the same solution and let it sit for 2 to 4 weeks in a dark, dry area away from sunlight. Shake every 1 to 2 days. All right. So if you didn't want to do this fast method, you can go ahead and put this right in a dark area and let it sit there for a longer period of time to really get those properties out. Okay, so that's your tincture. I'm going to put this right back in here to start getting prepared. And that's how we make tinctures. Moving on. Now, this is internally. What we just did before was internally, right? The teas internally, the tincture, we use the herbs internally. What about an external use of some of these herbs? Well, in your natural remedies classes, maybe you've had some of those before. You see how we can make poultices, right, with some of these herbs or these plants. But today I'm going to show you how to make an oil extract, which is very similar to the tincture that we just made. Generally, oil extracts, herbal oil extracts, are used externally. Now, you have a few herbal extracts that you maybe use for cooking, like oregano or things like that. But these are the ones that we're showing you is going to be for external use. Okay, so oil extracts are simple and effective means of extracting the oil soluble components from the herbal materia. It is a common practice in food preparation, like in making salad dressings. While savory herb oil infusions are consumed as food, most medicinal herb oil infusions are used topically. Okay, so the one or the recipe that we're going to do today will be for pain, and the herbs we'll use is ginger. So that ginger again, white willow bark, which is like one of the most common and most powerful herbs used for pain, peppermint leaf, and you can use a little, like a sprinkle of cayenne pepper. And the oil that we're going to use for infusion is olive oil. All right. What do you need? Same things as you did before: a glass jar, the herbs, your olive oil or your castor oil or your coconut oil. You need your crock pot and some kitchen towels, the same thing, and a cheesecloth to strain. General dosage, apply topically as much as you need. All right. So just earlier today, I actually did this class here, and we were making a calendula oil because it's for like eczema and the skin and so on, right? So same concept. This one is just for pain. Okay, so I'm gonna get my herbs first here out and prepared, so I know what I need. I need my ginger root again. I also need my white willow bark. I need peppermint. And I have my comfrey, but so we're actually not putting in the cayenne today. We're gonna add it in when the herb is already when we're at the end of the process, because we may have a guest or two who is allergic or sensitive to the cayenne. So we're gonna make the pain oil without it, and then add it for whoever, we think needs it, okay? So first we fill just as before. We fill half of our jar with the herb. So I have my new jar here, and maybe you can see from one of those angles. There we go. Okay. And I'm gonna fill the herb, or the jar, sorry, with half the amount of herb. Ginger is a great herb used for inflammation, which is usually goes along, right? Pain and inflammation. Okay. And then I'm going to put in my white willow bark. White willow bark can also be used internally, like a tea, used as a tea for pain. And you would follow the same recipe as we talked about before, boiling, because it's a bark, boiling for 10 minutes and then steeping. All right, our white willow bark. And I'm going to put a good bit of this one because this is really the kicker for pain. Okay. And then we're going to add some peppermint. Let's see here. Oh, the peppermint smells so nice. Okay, peppermint oil. So fill half the jar of your jar, fill it up halfway with the herb, then fill the rest of the jar with your olive oil. Okay. So this one does not need any hot water as you used before. Okay. Just trying to get it all the way down in there. All right. Excellent. All right, then we're gonna mix, I'm pretty sure, place the lid on the jar and then mix the herbs as best as you can. Right, so really get that mixed in there. All right, and same as before, place the jar into the crock pot on low, fill it with water, and line it with a kitchen towel. And for your oil extracts or your oil infusions, you only leave it in there for 24 hours. All right, so we only want it to be in there for 1 day. And of course, we're going to add warm water as needed. Okay, so I'm going to add it right along with my other mixture. Right here and down. And I'm not sure if you could actually see what inside the crock pot looks like. Maybe do I need to where the lid is? Okay, maybe we can just move it across a little bit so you can see. Because people are always concerned about putting the glass jars into the right into the pot, but it's no problem, right? So I have my tincture and my oil, my kitchen towel down in there. Gonna cover this up and place my lid on top. And that's it. So this one, I'll take it out tomorrow around this time because it has to be about 24 hours. And then the tincture, I'm gonna leave that for another 2 days, right? Because it has to boil for 3 days in total. All right, shake the mixture and strain with a cheesecloth. So the same method that we did before, using your strainer or, a piece of cloth that is gonna really take all of those little pieces of herb out. And then we're going to store in a dark, dry place. You can use the long method as well, which is same as before, making your mixture and letting it sit for about 2 to 4 weeks. And then using it that way, right? But this way is just so much faster, right? Okay, so that is your oil infusions, and that depending on, what you've made. So for this one, we've made a pain oil, which I actually have some here. It's a pain oil, and you could see how thick and nice, as well as how dark it is. It's really taken up all of that herb that we put in there. And this can be applied, right? So I'm not gonna put my finger in there. Actually just use a spoon. So, right, if I was having some pain and inflammation, maybe on the hand or on the joints, arthritis, stuff like that, I can go right ahead and rub that into the area. Oh, it smells so good. Right? Simple, so easy, and pretty much everything you have at home. Maybe the only thing you'll have to purchase is the herb, right? Okay, so let me get a piece of paper towel here. Okay, so I think we may have time for one more thing to teach you how to do. We covered already teas, we covered tinctures, and now we just did oil extracts. Can we take this one step further? What about salves? Okay, let me see here. Right, so if you don't know what a salve is, this is what it generally looks like. Maybe right here. There you go. So really, it's just the solid form of this oil that we just made, right? So I will infuse my oils just as I did here, and now I can make it into something that's a little bit nicer to rub on my skin, right? I mean, I use a lot of salves for my lotions, things in my hair, lip balm, things like, they're all pretty much salves, right? So here we have salve. In essence, is any kind of medical mixture that combines herbs and beeswax and infused oils. This used to soothe the head or other body surfaces, right? So that's kind of like a general definition of anything that you can rub on topically, okay? So we can take this same pain oil that we just made and make it into a salve. How do we do that? We need one more thing. So we made our oil already. We also need some beeswax, right? And that's the most common thing used to make it firm. Here I have some to show you. Some people, like some herbalists, use soy wax, you know, different types, but the most common one is for sure beeswax, and it's the one that has been, well, this side, it's been tried and true, and it melts really nicely, right, in your pot and so on. Okay, so for this one, there are two methods. There's the double boiler method, which we'll talk about, but there's just also the plain simple use your pot, you know, from home method, and that's what we're gonna show you. So the first thing you need to do is make your infused oil, and we're gonna pretend, well, this is actually the oil that's been made. This was made a couple weeks ago, and then we're gonna strain it and put it into another jar. We've already done that. Place your jar into a medium-sized saucepan, half filled with water. All right, I'm gonna move this away and show you what that would look like. So this little, let me see if I'm in the right place here, Brother Andre. Is this a good spot? Perfect. Okay, so if you've never seen a double boiler, this is what an old one looks like, right? So it's two pots that go together. You put your water down below and it boils. So I can actually put some water in here. Water down below, and it boils. And then I place my other pot up top, and this is where you would now pour your oil into, right? You would pour it into the top. Now you don't want to pour your oil right into a pan and put it right onto the stove, right? It's not stir fry. Okay, so we're not like cooking food, right? We don't want to change the composition of the oil that we've made. So this double boiler method is really what you want to have. right? You have your water down below. I could put this up on top. Now I add my oils into the top pan and put in my beeswax to make it firm. But a lot of people don't have this at home. So what do you do if you don't have this double boiler? Well, I can use just a pot. I fill my pot with hot water, like, you know, a little bit of warm water there. And I'm going to take the jar and the oil that I've already infused, and I'm going to just remember how much oil. I'm going to put that right into the pot. So I've created a double boiler right here, right? Because the oil is in the jar and the jar is in the pot. Okay, so you want to bring your water up to a boil and, you know, have it nice and warm. And then I'll slowly add my beeswax. Here, number 3, it says add beeswax equaling 1/4 of the amount of oil, right? So I'm just, again, going to eyeball it. You could have actually measured this. This is about 6 ounces according to the measurement on this. So 1/4, I would measure the amount of beeswax that is needed, 1/4 of that amount. And I'll open this out just to show you what that looks like. And let me get maybe a cover over here. Okay. All right. And so measure out whatever 1/4 is, right? Of your 6 ounces, your amount. And then slowly, as your wax, as your oils are melting and so on, I'm going to add slowly these beeswax. Well, these are like these little beads, beeswax beads, and it will slowly just melt right into that oil and slowly become firm. Now, it's better for you to go, this is the one time that you actually do want to measure the amount. So measure exactly the amount of oils that you have in there and actually figure out what 1/4 of it is, because sometimes your salve could become too firm because you're eyeballing it and you put too much beeswax, right? And then you have another problem. So this recipe here of 1/4, the amount works really well. So after you go ahead and you put 1/4 of it in and it melts into the jar and so on, it will still be liquid and you would be tempted to put more in, but I want to tell you, don't do it. Just leave it with the 1/4 amount. And as you take it out and let it cool for at least an hour or so, it will turn firm like this salve that I showed you. So what we did for this nice fancy container, after we melted our oil in here with our 1/4, we poured it into all these little containers and then had it would sit in here and cool, you know, overnight, or, you know, as long as it will take to firm up all the way to the top. Okay, so simmer the water until the beeswax is melted. That was number 4. Number 5, check the consistency by placing a drop on a cooled counter, right? So you can take out a little bit of, after you've melted your amount, you can take out a little bit and test it on the counter to see how firm it is. But as I said before, that 1/4 is really a no-fail recipe. Take it off the heat and allow it to cool for about 5 to 10 minutes. You can, at this point, add any extra things that you want. So let's say you went to a class and you found out, oh, there's an extra oil. For example, for this one, we wanted to add, if you see there, frankincense oil to help with pain. Okay, so at this point, I can add my essential oils or any other ingredients at this point, and then pour it into the holding container and do not cap until it's completely cooled, right? So we want it to cool off, and we won't do that until we want it to cool, and then we'll go ahead and cap it. Okay, and these salves, I mean, they can last for months on end, right? Even to a year, maybe, or even longer. Okay, so that's how you make your oil infusions into a salve. Some of this may seem a little bit overwhelmed, but honestly, it's pretty easy, and it's something, a lot of these things you can do right at home. Okay, so at the end of this presentation, we have number 3 talking about your dried and powdered herbs, which you can get from, generally you can buy those in capsules at your health food store. And essential oils are also a great way of getting some herbs, right? Using herbs at home. Here are some little things that you interact with, some common things you that we have in life, and here we can use herbs for them. Herbs either in the form of a tincture or a essential oil for insect bites, for sunburn, poison ivy, motion sickness, toothache, nausea, things like that, to relax the body. I'm just gonna let you either take a picture of that, or we can get that information to you later. But little recipes of things you can use for these common ailments. That's what these are. Okay, and then down at the end, these are just some herbs that we have used over the years for things like pain, and for the nerves, right? Here are some herbs that are commonly used for diabetes. These can be made again into teas or tinctures. Here for the heart, right? Great herbs, ones that we've tested and tried for years. For the lungs, for the liver and blood, fevers and infection. So you have your echinacea, your golden seal, ginseng, elderberry, garlic, oil of oregano, and well, those are herbs but used in a different form, grapefruit seed extract. For cholesterol or lowering your cholesterol. And I believe that is the last one. References to all of the things that we've talked about today, the books that we got some of these things from. And then finally, a quotation here that I just think is so powerful. It says, well, the second to last paragraph there, sentence says, natural means used in accordance with God's will brings about supernatural results. So make your oils, make your tinctures, do all of these great things, but don't forget to pray, right? Pray and ask the Lord to bless it, because natural things used in accordance with God's will, that's when we have the success, the supernatural results. All right, I pray that this was a blessing to you. God bless.
Wow, so much information. Thank you so much. I really, I'm still stuck at, I thought all teas, when you put it in the pot, you just boil it off. We just boil everything. and after it boils, you take it out. But I've learned that to get the best out of the herb, you have to, it's the timing, right? And that's just so interesting. So thank you so much. And for our guests, we will be going into a question and answer period. So if you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. And in a few seconds, Merlene will come up and start asking questions. Also, for the presentation, if you want the information that was in this presentation, please put your name and email information in the chat. Please put your name and email information in the chat, and we will get that to you. And just briefly, I believe we have a survey that should be popping up shortly to get a little information about you. It only takes like 3 seconds or so. And fill that out right quick. And I'll give you a second to do that. Thank you so much. And definitely, if you've been blessed so far with the information, I encourage you to tell somebody about us meeting here every other Tuesday, or I think it's well, Merlene can let you know when she comes up, how often we meet. I think it's the second and the fourth Tuesday, but she can confirm that. So without further ado, I'll bring Merlene up and she would start with the Q&A session. Merlene?
And there's something on the screen up there. Right there.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Maury. Yes, you're correct. It is the second and fourth Tuesday that we have our programming. Wow, Rukia, this was a very well spent hour with the information that you have shown and demonstrated for us. Much appreciated. Many questions have come up, so let's see what we can cover here. One of the questions is, where do we start? One, is there a website that you recommend purchasing the dry herbs?
That's Mountain Rose is where we get a lot of our herbs. Not that we're not sponsored by them, and you have to go in and see yourself what's mixed in there, but a lot of our herbs, so we have a Country Life store and we get from them, but I believe the Country Life store also gets from Mountain Rose herbs, and so I don't know if you ever heard of them, but it's a pretty big market online for herbs.
So we can Google that and find
yes.
where we can get that. Excellent. Another question regarding storage, the storage containers. Is there something, well, you did indicate something about using dark bottles, dark glass jars. Would glass be the most recommended? I guess the Salve was made in a different container, like a plastic container, but in general, glass?
Exactly. This one was just stored in plastic. So after it was made and boiled, anytime you're using heat, you kind of want to stay away from plastic. So yes, glass would be the best type, the best way to do this. Yeah.
Okay, good. And I think you answered the question about an alternative for the crock pot. You described using that. So that was answered. And it sounds like when you make a tincture, it's typically good for 6 months or so.
That's right. About 6 months, at least this recipe, right? So you may see other recipes online or other recipes in other books and so on, and they'll tell you how long their recipe it can be used for. So the ones that we're sharing today is about 6 months.
Okay. And actually my very first question was supposed to have been, are you going to be able to, I know you're going to give us information to share with those that have put their email addresses in. This includes the recipes. Can it?
Yes.
Okay. Is it going to be the presentation?
Them. Say it again.
Is it going to be the presentation or the recipes that, well, that's about the same thing, right?
Yes, we'll get most of it in there. Some of definitely the herbs that can be used for different things. And we'll get the recipes. I'll make sure that they say the correct things, like the herbs and so on. And we'll send that over. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sounds good. It did say something about not using more than, I think, 4 or 5 different herbs within your tincture and such. And when you did the tinctures, you filled out half the jar. So if you kind of like elderberry, can you put like more elderberry than so you can just flavor it to your, okay. That was my question. I like that.
Yeah, depending on what you need more of, like in this setting, the physician may say, okay, I'm going to give you these 4 herbs to make, but the guest actually needs more of this one. So I'd use smaller quantities of this and more of that one, right? So for sure.
Okay. Can't read my handwriting. I have to go over here. Oh, so there was a question that you may have answered it too. What do you do with the leftover herbs? I think you said something about compost or.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Pretty
it's not really, you can put it in the garden, you can compost it. I mean, it's great still. We can't make another tea from it, really.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's really up to you.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Mhm.
We do have a hand. Marie has her hand up if you want to ask your question.
My question is about when she put the mixture with the herbs and the oil and put it in the hot water. Oh, no, no, the hot water, the pot, the black pot. Is it not gonna break?
Yeah,
Because,
great question.
and then also she was talking about cheesecloth. What is it? Is it the cheese? Cheese like real words, cheesecloth or what?
Yeah, great questions. So I've actually done this before, when I was learning to do this for the first time. So when you put your mixture into the jar, into the pot, like you mentioned, do not cover the lid, don't put the lid on. That's what would make the jar pop down at the bottom. So it won't break at all. We've done this tens of, maybe even hundreds of times, right? Just leave that jar open and you need it to be open as you mixing the beeswax into it. As long as you leave it open, it will be fine. Yeah. And then the second question is it a cheesecloth the actual cheese? Yes. Like you go to Walmart and buy, it literally says,
Like
I don't have the
cheese,
package here. Cheese, yeah, cheese,
Oh.
cheesecloth. This is what it looks like. Let me do it here. I'm not sure if this is cotton or linen, but right, cheesecloth. But you don't have to use this particular, you don't have to use this, just any piece of material that is porous enough for the solution to come through, but not so, right, that the little pieces of herb can also come through, right? So like at home, I've seen them use like a shirt, a cheap shirt that's clean, of course, things like that. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you for your question, Marie. Another question is, are salves, this is a general question, are salves good for itching? I guess there's a recipe that might be, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's like the number one for skin stuff, right? For itching, for like skin irritations, ringworms, for infections, for anti-aging, right? All of that is what your salves are used for. So same method as we did before, you'll just have to use whatever herbs, right, for itching. And maybe we can let me write that down. I can put that in my notes as well to add some herbs that we suggest for itching, if I can find my pen. Okay, I'll write it right here and we'll see if we can get that to you, some herbs that we recommend. Calendula is one, and that was the one that I made earlier today.
Okay, great. Now, you ready for the next?
Yes.
Do you recommend machines like Levo or the old-fashioned stovetop and pots?
Levo, I'm not familiar with what that is.
I'm gonna go right back to the question. So whoever asked that question, I'm gonna make sure that I wrote it properly. But so, well, old-fashioned stovetop and pots. I mean, you did use, as opposed to the crock pot, a regular pot. Maybe that's where we are.
I see. So it's really difficult to make your tinctures in a pot because it's hard to regulate the temperature. The crock pot is excellent because you can just put it at a low, medium temperature and kind of leave it for a long time. And we can trust that it wouldn't take away or devalue the herbs, right? I can't imagine doing that at the stovetop for 3 days at low, medium heat. That just sounds like it's going to be stressful. I would probably just make my mixture and let it sit for 2 weeks, So nothing against the stovetop. It's just a little bit harder to monitor and make sure that you're not gonna kill the mixture, like take away the stuff. Yeah.
Okay. We have a few more questions that I'm going to get to. All right. Okay, the eye salve, sorry, not the eye salve, but the salve recipe. And someone just mentioned about the essential oils. I guess it should be noted that some are ingestible and some are just for external use. So we have to be
Correct.
careful of that.
Yes. You want to make sure that you're buying, for whatever use you need. Some can be used internally, some cannot.
All right. And someone is asking for a salve or tincture solution for hair growth or
Oh,
such a thing.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Probably the two most common herbs that I use is actually cayenne and rosemary. Those two are what we've used. I mean, it isn't like the magic your hair grows, but anything that will increase circulation to the head will help with hair growth. But a lot of times you have to find out why you're losing hair. Is it just because of age? For females, does it have a hormonal component? Is it alopecia? Is it stress? Right? So, but anyways, those are two herbs that are used, and generally we'll make an infusion. So we made an oil infusion of castor oil, that rosemary, and a little bit of the cayenne, and that really can possibly help with hair growth. And the castor oil is a big one that people even use. A lot of hair influencers use in helping the hair to come in thick and nice and stuff like that. So yeah.
Great. Question. Do you all offer like an online herbal course? People are having a lot of interest in wanting to learn more. Do you all have that at Uchee Pines?
We do not currently offer and just standalone herbal class. No. Yeah, maybe it's something we can think for the future, but yeah, no, not just for herbs. Now we have a lot of different seminars, weekend seminars and so on, and it would be a 1 hour, 2 hour presentation similar to what we did today, and you get to do more hands-on things, like actually on site with us. But yeah, not online. No.
Okay. It's an idea.
Yes, it is.
So I'm not sure if this was associated with what you were talking about at the time, but the question is, does it matter if we use clove leaf or clove bud?
I've only used the actual seed. I'm not sure the clove itself. I'm not sure about the leaf and so on. I guess it would just depend on what you need it for. I'm not sure if you're referring to the slide that talked about using it for a toothache. It said to use the clove oil. And so that would be the essential oil, not really the clove, seeds. Yeah. So, but for toothaches, it's like one of the most powerful herbs to help with pain. Okay. So, and it has the instructions there, putting a little bit of it on a couple drops on a cotton ball and stick it right into where that pain is, can really help to reduce the pain in that area.
Okay. And of course you have to find out the cause, what?
Right.
Right.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So what do you use calendula for?
Calendula.
Calendula?
Or calendula. Okay. Yeah. So that would be one of the herbs that we use for skin problems. So itching, that would be honestly number one for healing. Let's see, we can find some other things. What I would honestly recommend is that you get a book that you trust, right? So we have a couple resources at the end of this screen. I don't know if Brother Andre can put us up here, but that first book, The Little Herb Encyclopedia, is actually one of the books that we use for teaching our therapists how to do, so our livestock counselors. So I would get a book that I trust, and it's kind of has everything that, like it has all these different sections for all these different things, and all of these different conditions, and kind of go from there.
Okay,
That
great.
would be my recommendation. Oh, go online. We have a lot of great things on our website as well.
Okay, I shared the website earlier. So a follow-up question with that though was, do you just use the petals?
Yeah, a lot of times the calendula is used the blossom of the flower. Yeah, most times. I've never used the other parts, not that it can't be used, but in my experience, it's always been the blossom.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, okay, I see. Someone is interested in, I guess, a presentation on identifying wild edibles and wild medicinals in our environment. Perchance, is that something you could possibly do in the future?
Well, I may not be the person for it, but I do know a good bit of what we have around here. But I know there's some people who've lived here for much longer than I have, and they know every blade of grass outside. So we'll have to figure out how to do that, because maybe what you have in your area wouldn't necessarily be what I have in my area. And some of these books actually give you herbs that are in certain states and so on. So we'll have to figure out how we can get that, how we can get that done. Some are pretty common, like aloe or comfrey, things like that. But yeah, some herbs only grow in certain parts of the country. So
okay.
yeah.
So how would you know if your tincture or your salve has gone bad? Is there a way to tell by looking or smelling?
Yeah, generally, just like when food or something goes bad in the refrigerator, you'll have this white, like foam of mold or whatever it is on top, right? So it doesn't really smell, but you can tell that, like your food's gone bad, this white fuzzy stuff on top of the, so that's usually, okay, so it's usually if it stays for longer than 6 months, or if you didn't strain out all of those particles enough, right? Like there's pieces of the herb in there. Another thing that can cause it to go bad is so I was using a spoon to mix something, and I used that same dirty spoon to take out the mixture. So you want to use clean, right, mixing utensils, or anytime you're pouring it out, you want to use something clean every time. Yeah.
Sounds good. Any recipes for kidney health? Guess some herbal recipe for kidney health?
That's a good question. I don't think we have a slide on the kidneys. The kidneys are, we can look it up. We can look up some things. I think even in natural medicine, we're still figuring out herbs that are great and effective. We know lots of hydrotherapy treatments that can really help with kidney disease and kidney health, but herbs are kind of like trial and error, but we'll see what we have. So I'm going to put it here.
Great, thank you. Someone is commenting on your ginger. I'm saying it did not look like powder.
Right.
What was it?
It was not powder. Here we go. Here's our ginger. So I don't know if that person got to hear the beginning, but we want to avoid powders. So this is the ginger root itself that has been dried and smells nice and strong. Yeah.
Okay. Anything on making a toothpaste or soap making, or maybe that's a suggestion for future presentation.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking. Yeah, that would be the next step. So making your soaps, your lotions, your lip balms with, more than just your salve, that could be another presentation possibly in the future.
Good to hear. And natural deodorant as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably cleaning products, how to natural cleaning, things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so we can maybe look into that for maybe next year or something like that.
Yeah, we can see when we.
We'll be in contact.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good. Let's see how we're doing with time. Do you have any recipes for the removal of warts?
I don't have a whole lot of experience in that. Um, I've heard of people using garlic to help remove warts and so on. But I would maybe check on our website to see if we have any handouts. We have counseling sheets. I don't even know how many hundreds of them online. And I believe we're getting them up slowly because we kind of switched some things there. And check and see what we have. I haven't seen a lot of that. I haven't seen it at all actually, but I've heard of using garlic. But I would for something like that, those are the times that you really want to get some medical advice. You don't want to just go stick something on you and you're not really sure what it is, the shape of it. Are you even sure it is a wart, right? So I would have a consultation. I'm sure there's lots of places that offer consultations. We do as well for a small fee. I'm not sure what the fee is right now, but you can do 15 minutes, 30 minutes, things like that. Send pictures of what's going on, and then they can give a recommendation, a treatment plan that you can use safely at home.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
How about herbs for frequent ear infections?
Yeah. Number one, a lot of times we use garlic oil. So, and that one doesn't even have to be infused, really. It can just sit for a long time. It's better if it's infused. So using your same recipe with your olive oil and actual raw garlic. So half, whatever your portions are, I can't remember, half and half oil and half garlic, the cloves of garlic, and making your mixture and having it sit put it in the crock pot. You can as well for your 24 hours, or just have it sit for about a week on the shelf. That will help clear up ear infections within a short period of time. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think someone is maybe looking at the comparison of using a cheesecloth or a nut bag to strain.
Okay.
Nut bag.
I'm not sure what a nut bag is, but if it's going to give you the same results, go straight ahead.
I think it's used in like making milk, like if you're making almond milk or something like that.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. See, we just use the cheesecloth for everything. But hey, if there's a nut bag, go ahead.
Okay. So would the nutritional content of certain herbs be destroyed by heat? Yeah, for example, am I saying it? Calendula?
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's why it's so important to know, especially if you're making it in a tea form, know what type. So you're using the calendula blossom. So how long should it boil for, or steep, and things like that. So we have that recipe at the beginning of our presentation, and for sure you can potentially destroy some of the herbal properties. I'm sure you're going to get something, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to get bad stuff. You're just going to get less of what you could have gotten, you know?
Someone made a comment, the cloves bud can be used in warm water as a soak for the mouth. The sound.
Okay. Sounds like it could be done.
When you buy the herbs, they usually come in a box. Is it best to transfer those herbs to the glass jar for storage?
I would say so. That's how we store our herbs, in glass jars like these that you see here. If it's too great of a quantity, we may leave it in the bag. Like Mountain Rose gives you this nice dark bag that is like it's not just regular plastic. It's that great organic, whatever, great stuff. So we kind of keep it in there if it's too much, but glass jars are probably the best way to store your herbs. Yeah.
Okay.
You also want to put a date on it to know how long. Sometimes, according to the company you're buying it from, they'll tell you how long to use the herb. Mountain Rose does, at least. So, because it will lose its potency as it sits longer.
Okay, here's a good question. They're all good questions, but how do you make vanilla extract from the bean?
I would have to do a YouTube video with you, and we'd both have to sit and figure that out. I'm not actually sure how they make that. I mean, I have some pretty good ideas, but in cooking, like here in the Lifestyle Center, they honestly just use the bean, quarter inch or an inch of it, right? An inch of the bean. So however, an inch and a little bit of water. I think it's a teaspoon of water, and they blend it together and they use that as their extract.
Okay.
So we don't even do the whatever process this is, because a lot of times, right, you have to get the real versus the imitation extract and so on. So for our guests, we try to be as natural and as close to the plant as possible. So we just buy the bean itself and the dried bean and a little bit, about an inch of it and a little bit of water, and make it as strong or as diluted as you want, and it's 100% good.
Exactly. Right. Okay. They were asking if you can display the reference, the books slide, so they can read or take a snapshot of it. And at this thing, say it again.
Oh, I was just asking Brother Andre, they would like to see the slide. There you go.
And so at the same time, can you freeze salves? Can you put them
Is it possible you could just focus on the reference section so that we can read it? Because when it's two screens being shared, you can barely read it off the screen, more or less take a screenshot. There you go.
Okay. All right.
So the salves won't need to be, there's no need to freeze it because it's gonna last forever. It's almost like a butter, a body butter or a lotion, right? It doesn't need to be refrigerated or anything.
Okay. All right.
It's like,
let me see what we have left in the last few minutes. I'm gonna pick and choose here. So we're going to be sharing the information that you shared with us. Any suggestions for a sty removal?
Like in the eye?
I believe so. That's what I think. Marie is asking.
I'm wondering if a charcoal poultice would help. Do you know, Brother Andre? Yeah. We can we have down at the bottom of that screen right there, we have our phone number. Go ahead and give us a call, and we have an incredible several phone consultants who, this one particular one who she answers the phone all the time, she's been here for over 25 years, and so I'm sure she will have a remedy for you. Yes, I'm not sure about if what will work for that one. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. I think
just one little thing there, that the phone consultation or the little chat with her is actually free. If it goes past a certain time, she'll say, okay, but so that's a great resource, honestly, that they provide. You can call in and get a lot of great information for $0.00.
okay. I just put this in my way. So, someone indicated that a hot water cloth helps with spots as well.
That's great. Yeah, I would for sure. Hydrotherapy would absolutely, hot and cold on the eye. But in terms of herbs or poultices, that's where I would have to go and ask for some help there. But yes.
Okay. I believe I have a question.
Yes, quick question. I think this was answered already, but I want to just make sure. because
Mhm.
when you were doing this wonderful presentation, it seemed obvious that you was reading from something. So were you reading from a book or just from your computer, something that we could have access to?
Yes. So it was the presentation that you would see from time to time, the slides. And so we're gonna put that into a document. We already have it prepared, and we're gonna send it over to the host.
Okay,
And,
all right.
and yeah, you can access it.
So you can put, if you haven't done so yet, put your email address.
I did.
Okay, excellent. You'll get it.
And I want to know if, in fact, you can do a study of this. Like, you all sell a lot. I've been there, and you all sell an awful lot of books. Is there a recommended book that you could make that would help us be more knowledgeable about some of the things you're sharing?
Yeah, great question. So we have a reference slide that we had up earlier. We can put it back up there again if needed. Maybe we can put that slide up, Brother Andre, the reference slide. And it is the book that we are currently recommended is that first book on the list. And all of them are great books, but that first one is it's pretty inexpensive, so it's nice, a good price, and covers a lot of diseases and a lot of herbs that is in the US. So
Thank you so much.
no problem.
All right, too quick here. The telephone number for the free consultation, would that be available on the website, within the website, or are you able to share that?
Yeah, it was actually at the bottom of the slide. So right down, I don't know if you can actually see that. It's kind of small down there, but it's 334-855-4764. And the operator will come up asking you, what service you would like to come as a guest, education department, or talk to the health consultants. And you just press, can't remember if that's 3 or 2 or something like that. And you'll get right onto her. If you don't get onto her, you leave a message or them, and they'll call you right back.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so lastly, okay, so thanks for putting up the number. A question is asked if you all have free ebooks.
That's a great question. We may actually have some on our website. I'm not sure what they are though. I'd have to go in there and check and see. We do, I believe, also have a little store up there that we can purchase. You can purchase some small books, but a lot of our free resources comes under our counseling sheet section. So we have an entire page just designated to counseling sheets, and I mean hundreds of counseling sheets for different diseases and so on. And you can find a lot of great resources there. They're free and so on. Also, when you do the health consultation, if there are any handouts that you need or any protocols to send to you, they'll actually email that to you. I mean, I've even seen them send out packages in the mail if you needed it because you don't have a computer or whatever. So yeah, so I would check the website and then go ahead and make the call, and we'll definitely get something to you for sure.
Excellent, excellent. I believe I have captured all the questions. I thank you so much once again. We'll be happy to see you another opportunity with more information that's so important, especially for our times now.
Yes.
All right.
All
So,
right.
if you wouldn't mind praying to close us out, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for what we have learned today, and we're grateful that you have provided these things for us that we can use along with you to bring health and restoration to our bodies. Father, we know that these things have no power in itself, but it's because you have blessed them, and when we use them in faith, you will bring about supernatural results. So I pray that you will give each of the listeners faith today to use your natural means. And Lord, we ask that you will show them how to do it, give them the wisdom to know what to use, help them to go to the right places to get the help that they need, either the online resources or the phone calls. And Lord, we pray that through all of these things, we will be grateful to you because of your love for us and how you want to see us saved, both spiritually and physically. Thank you, Father. Bless the rest of our evening. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you all next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.